I never thought I'd end up hog-tying a self-proclaimed neighborhood queen with her own designer scarf. But there I was, staring down at Karen's Botox-frozen face, twisted in outrage as the zip ties bit into her wrists. She'd burst into my family's lake cabin, my cabin now, like she owned the deed, screeching about trespassing and violations, her iPhone already summoning the cops before I could even draw my duffel bag. What she didn't know, as her perfectly manicured nails clawed at the air, was that I wasn't some drifter she'd scared off with her HOA bylaws. I was the ghost from her past, the one she'd buried under a mountain of lies and lawyers, and tonight, the reckoning was just getting started. It started with a single text from my late father's attorney. "The cabin's yours." No strings. I'd laughed it off at first, buried as I was in the grind of Chicago's corporate hellscape. But something in those words cracked open a vault I'd sealed shut years ago. Driving up to Willow Lake that crisp October evening, the autumn leaves blazing like warning flares along I-94, I felt the old rage bubbling up, hot and familiar. Karen Whitaker, CEO of Whitaker Properties, Queen Bee of the Lakeside Estates HOA, had turned my childhood paradise into her personal fiefdom after Dad's accident. She'd sworn it was a heart attack, but I'd seen the emails, the hushed whispers about creative estate planning. Now, pulling into the overgrown driveway, gravel crunching under my tires like bones underfoot, I wondered if she'd even recognize the scrawny kid she'd once dismissed as that little pest from the wrong side of the tracks. The cabin door creaked open on rusty hinges, releasing a puff of musty air laced with pine and regret. I flicked on the lights. Thank God the power hadn't been cut, and there it was, frozen in time. Dad's old fishing rod propped in the corner, Mom's quilt draped over the sagging couch, the stone fireplace still stacked with half-burnt logs from our last family barbecue. I dropped my bag and cracked open a beer from the dusty six-pack in the fridge, toasting to ghosts. That's when the floodlights hit, blinding white beams slicing through the windows like accusatory fingers. A megawatt voice boomed over a bullhorn. "This is private property. Vacate immediately or face arrest for criminal trespass." I peeked through the curtains, and there she was, Karen, all 5'0" of peroxide blonde fury, flanked by her HOA goon squad of retirees in pleated khakis, her red power suit clashing violently with the fall foliage. I should have known she'd escalate. Karen didn't do subtle. She was the type who CC'd the entire neighborhood on emails about your lawnmower's decibel levels. But calling 911 over a guy crashing on his own couch, that was peak Karen, entitled, unhinged, and utterly convinced the world revolved around her Pinterest-perfect cul-de-sac. As sirens wailed closer, I slipped out the back, circling the property line through the woods I'd roamed as a kid. The lake lapped quietly at the shore, indifferent to the drama unfolding 50 yards away. Hiding in the shadows of the old oak, I watched her strut up to the cabin door, pounding like she was auditioning for a SWAT team. "Open up. This is Karen Whitaker, president of Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association. You're in violation of Covenant 7.2.b, unauthorized occupancy." The cops arrived in a blur of blue and white. Two burly stoddies spilling out of their cruiser with hands hovering near holsters. Karen was in full performance mode, gesturing wildly, her voice pitching up into that nasal whine that could shatter glass. "Officers, thank God you're here. This squatter broke in, probably some meth head from the trailer park. I have the logs. The security cameras caught him at dusk." One cop, a grizzled vet with a mustache that screamed nom flashbacks, knocked politely while his partner scanned the perimeter. No answer, of course. I was one step ahead, phone in hand, recording every pearl-clutching moment. It took them 20 minutes to pick the lock, amateurs, and when they stepped inside, flashlights sweeping like searchlights over Berlin, I held my breath from my vantage point. Karen barreled in after them, heels clicking like castanets on the hardwood. "See? Look at this mess. He's probably stripped the place for copper wire by now." But then the lead cop paused, his beam landing on the mantel. There, amid the dust bunnies, sat a framed photo, me, Dad, and Mom, grinning like idiots after reeling in a 10-pound base. He picked it up, squinting. Ma'am, this address, it's registered to Elias Hawthorne. You know him. Karen froze, her back to me, but I could see the color drain from her neck. Hawthorne? That old drunk died years ago. The property's in foreclosure. HOA lien. The cop chuckled low and knowing. Foreclosure? Lady, I fish this lake every summer. Hawthorne's cabin's been off limits since 18, but it's his all right. And this kid in the photo? Looks just like the guy who called dispatch 5 minutes ago to report a neighborhood watch gone rogue. Her head snapped around, eyes darting to the windows, but I was already melting back into the trees, a grin splitting my face for the first time in months. By dawn, the cops had peeled out, leaving Karen sputtering on the porch like a kettle left too long on the boil. I waited until her minions dispersed, old Mr. Hargrove muttering about overreach under his breath, before emerging, hands in pockets, casual as a Sunday stroll. Morning, Karen. Nice night for stargazing, huh? She whirled, clutch purse clutched like a shield, her face a war zone of foundation cracks and fury lines. You, who the hell are you? This is private property. I leaned against the porch rail, the wood groaning under my weight. Private? Funny, the deed says Hawthorne. And I'm Jack Hawthorne, sole heir. But you knew that, didn't you? Or did you think forging dads would stick forever? Her eyes narrowed to slits, that CEO shark smile flickering like a bad fluorescent bulb. Jack? Little Jackie? Oh, honey, you've grown. But this is absurd. Your father owed the association dues, back taxes, maintenance fees. The cabin's collateral. Bullshit, of course. I'd poured over the docs on the drive up. She'd inflated the numbers, cooked the books to seize it after Dad's sudden passing. The accident report I'd finally subpoenaed painted a different picture. Brake lines cut, skid marks scrubbed. Coincidence? In Karen's world, sure. In mine? Motive. We stood there, the lake mist curling around our ankles like unspoken accusations, and I laid out, calm, methodical, the way I'd rehearsed in traffic jams. How she'd wooed Dad after Mom's cancer took her, playing the grieving widow card while siphoning his savings into HOA improvements that magically lined her pockets. How the cabin was his escape, his legacy, and she'd turned it into Airbnb fodder for her side hustle. Karen's laugh was a brittle thing, echoing off the water. Legacy? Please. Elias was a liability, drinking, neglecting the property. I saved this community from his mess. And you? You're just a bitter millennial chasing ghosts. Call your lawyer. It'll be laughed out of court. But I had the lawyer on speed dial, and he'd already filed the injunction. As she stormed to her Tesla, keys jangling like jailer chains, I called after her. One more thing, Karen. Remember the summer of '09? When you accidentally reported Dad for illegal bonfires and got him fined into oblivion? Payback's a bitch. She slammed the door, tires spitting gravel as she fled, but I knew it was just intermission. The real show started when the neighbors got wind. Texts buzzing already, whispers of audits and depositions. Willow Lake was small. Secrets sank like stones, but mine? They were about to surface, tidal and unforgiving. That first week blurred into a haze of caffeine and court filings. I'd bunked down in the cabin, reclaiming it inch by inch, scrubbing the grime, rehanging Mom's photos, even firing up the grill for a solitary steak under the harvest moon. The HOA emails flooded in like spam from hell. Urgent. Unauthorized renovations. Violation notice. Unapproved outdoor cooking. Karen's signature at the bottom of each, her passive-aggressive barbs sharpened to stilettos. But the community chat was where the real venom brewed. I'd lurked anonymously at first, watching her spin the narrative. Intruders back. Armed and dangerous? Stay vigilant, neighbors. Armed. Please. The only weapon I had was truth, and I wielded it like Excalibur on day 3, dropping the bomb in the group thread. Attached the deed transfer, the forensic accounting report from Dad's PI, redacted just enough to sting. For those keeping score, cabin was never foreclosed. Karen Whitaker, CEO, allegedly manipulated records to seize Hawthorne Property Post, 2018. Evidence inside. Thoughts. The replies exploded like fireworks on the 4th. Emojis of shocked faces, demands for emergency meetings, even a poll. Trust in HOA leadership. Yes/no. Tipping hard toward no. Karen's counter came swift, a novella-length screed decrying defamation and slanderous fabrications from a known agitator. She doxed me lightly, my old high school mugshot, a snide note about Elias's wayward son, fresh from Chicago's underbelly. Underbelly? I clawed my way to a six-figure salary at a fintech startup, but to her I was still the kid stealing apples from her orchard. The backlash built like a nor'easter. Mrs. Patel from Lot 12 threatened to withhold dues. The Thompsons hosted an impromptu barbecue at my place, toasting the return of the king. Karen's posts grew frantic, all caps rants about preserving our values, but the tide had turned. Whispers of lawsuits rippled through coffee clatches, class action for misuse funds, maybe even fraud probes from the state AG. I kept my distance, playing the long game, but revenge has a way of creeping under your skin. Nights, I'd sit on the dock, rod in hand, casting lines into the dark water and reeling in memories instead of fish. Dad's laugh echoing over the waves, Mom's hand in mine as we skipped stones. Karen had stolen that piece, wrapped it in legalese, and sold it back to tourists for $300 a night. One evening, as fog rolled in thick as guilt, my phone lit up. Not a violation notice, but voicemail from an unknown number. Her voice, stripped of its armor, cracking like thin ice. "Jack, this is ridiculous. Meet me at the clubhouse. We can negotiate. For old times' sake." Old times? The kind where she'd bake us pies laced with arsenic-sweet advice, urging Dad to move on from the cabin, to sell to her developer buddies? I showed, of course. Curiosity's a cruel mistress. The clubhouse was a sterile box of beige carpet and motivational posters. Excellence is a habit. Smelling of stale donuts and desperation. Karen waited at the head table, alone, her suit swapped for yoga pants and a fleece that screamed, "Relatable, Mom." No goons, no bullhorn, just a bottle of Pinot Noir and 2 glasses, the label some overpriced Napa Valley swill. "Jack," she purred, pouring with trembling hands, "you made your point. The community's concerned. Let's bury this. I'll waive the liens, restore the title. In exchange, you drop the filings. We both walk away winners. Winners. As if this were a boardroom merger, not a blood feud." I sipped the wine, tart like her smile, and leaned in. "Bury it? Like you buried Dad's brake lines under a mechanical failure? Or the $50,000 you funneled into your charity that bought you that Lakeview condo?" Her glass clinked hard on the table, wine sloshing like spilled secrets. "That's libel. I loved your father." "Loved?" I barked a laugh, sharp as a hook. "You mean you loved his equity, his silence?" "I have the dashcam footage, Karen. From the mechanic who fixed his truck a week before. Timestamp crystal clear." Her face crumpled, not in remorse but rage, the mask slipping to reveal the harpy beneath. "You little shit. You think you can waltz back here, play hero? This neighborhood was a dump before I took over. Your dad's eyesore dragging down property values." She lunged across the table, nails raking air, but I caught her wrist, twisting just enough to pin her. The wine bottle shattered on the floor, red pooling like an accusation. In that moment, with her sputtering curses and my pulse thundering, I saw it all. The betrayal etched in her eyes, the empire she'd built on bones. I released her, stepping back as she scrambled up, mascara streaking like war paint. "You're done, Karen. The board meets tomorrow. Your resignation letter's already drafted by half the members." She fled into the night, sobs echoing off the pines, but the bitter twist? It wasn't triumph I felt, just hollow, the cabin's silence louder than her screams. Revenge tasted like ash, and Willow Lake, for all its beauty, felt forever stained. The fallout hit like a Michigan winter, swift, unrelenting, burying Karen under an avalanche she couldn't shovel out from. By week's end, the HOA board had convened an emergency session, live-streamed for transparency's sake, to a packed Zoom of pitchfork-wielding homeowners. I didn't attend. No need. The evidence I'd seeded, bank statements, Witness affidavit from Dad's old poker buddies did the talking. Karen arrived late, disheveled in a cashmere sweater that hung like defeat, her opening salvo a mewling defense. This is a witch hunt, orchestrated by a vengeful outsider. But the chair, good old Hargrove with his newfound spine, cut her off cold. Motion to remove Whitaker as president. All in favor. The A's drowned her protests, a democratic guillotine. She didn't go quietly. Oh no. Karen's exit was a spectacle worthy of reality TV, a tirade broadcast to every inbox from here to Milwaukee. Betrayed by neighbors I slaved for. Jack Hawthorne, you poisoned this well. Karma's coming. Karma? If only. The real blade fell when the AG's office knocked, tipped by an anonymous email, guess who, launching a probe into Whitaker Properties' irregularities. Her CEO, perch at the firm, toppled in a shareholder revolt, stock dipping like a stone skipped across the lake. I watched from afar, nursing coffee on the porch as news vans crawled the access road, reporters sniffing for scandal like hounds on a scent. But the bitter pill was hers to swallow whole. Stripped of title, dues, and dignity, Karen barricaded in her McMansion, blinds drawn against the judgmental stares. Whispers painted her as pariah, always knew she was shady. Poor Elias should have seen it sooner. Her husband, that milquetoast accountant, filed papers by November, citing irreconcilable stress. The condo went on the market, slashed price, lingering like a bad hangover. Last I heard, she'd relocated to Florida, some gated purgatory for fallen Karens, peddling real estate seminars on resilience in adversity. Resilience, as if pettiness could be rebranded as virtue. Me? I stayed. Winter blanketed the lake in white, turning the cabin into a cocoon of quiet repair. I fixed the roof, planted tulips along the drive, Mom's favorites, and even hosted a solstice party, lanterns flickering like stars reclaimed. The HOA rebooted under Hargrove's steady hand, covenants lightened, community potlucks mandatory. No more megawatts of malice, just folks sharing casseroles and stories around the fire pit. Yet in the dead of night, when the wind howled through the eaves, doubt crept in. Had I avenged Dad, or just become him? Haunted, hard-edged? Karen's panic that first night, when the cop uttered my name, replayed in loops. Not just fear, but a flicker of regret, buried deep under the bluster. Maybe she'd loved him, in her twisted way. Or maybe not. Either way, the cabin was mine again, free and clear, but the scars? They lingered, faint as lakeweed under ice. Spring thawed the shore, bringing base to the shallows and new neighbors to the lots. I met a girl at the marina, easy laugh, calloused hand from rigging sails, who didn't flinch at my ghost stories. We grilled perch one evening, her head on my shoulder, the water whispering forgiveness. Life, it turned out, wasn't all reckonings. Sometimes it was hooks in the current pulling you forward. Karen? She faded to a cautionary tale, the villain in lakeside lore. Last postcard from some sun-bleached condo in Boca, read like a white flag. You win, Jack. Enjoy the view. I burned in the fireplace, watching flames dance, and poured a drink for Dad. The bitter end? It wasn't hers alone, but damn if it didn't taste a little sweeter with the lake at my feet. As the ice cracked and gave way to April's tentative greens, I found myself knee-deep in the cabin's underbelly, ripping out rotted floorboards, unearthing relics like buried treasure from a life half forgotten. A rusted tackle box spilled lures that glinted like old sins, a stack of Dad's dog-eared Hemingways, margins crammed with notes on loss and the sea. Each find was a hook in my gut, tugging me deeper into the why of it all. Why had Karen's betrayal cut so raw? Not just the theft of wood and water, but the erasure, the way she'd rewritten our story as footnotes in her glossy brochure for upscale lakeside living. The neighborhood, post-purge, buzzed with tentative rebirth. Hargrove's board installed solar lights along the paths. No more floodlit inquisitions, and the annual picnic morphed into a real shindig. Kids chasing fireflies, grills smoking ribs slathered in St. Louis sauce, a bluegrass band plucking banjos under string lights. I manned the cooler, doling out IPAs and root beers, playing the reluctant hero. "Jack, you saved our asses." Thompson's son clapped my back, his breath beery. Karen was one bad perm away from turning this into a cult. Laughter rippled, but I waved it off, humble Midwestern to the core. Inside, though, the victory lap felt like jogging in place. The high of her downfall ebbed, leaving eddies of what-ifs. What if I let it lie? Sold the cabin site unseen, pocketed the check, and ghosted Willow Lake like a bad Tinder date? But no, betrayal's a barnacle, clinging tight until you scrape it off with steel wool and spite. Karen's ghost lingered in the margins, a for sale sign on her old lot, crooked as her smile. Emails from her lawyer, blustering cease and desist that dissolved like sugar in rain once the AG subpoenas landed. I'd forward them to Hardrove with a wink emoji, our new shorthand for handled. Yet, solitude amplified the echoes. Nights, the loon calls across the water sounded like her wail that clubhouse evening, half sob, half shriek, as I twisted her arm and her world cracked. Enter Lena. The sail rigger with salt-stiffened curls and a tattoo of a compass rose on her forearm, pointing true north. We collided at the public dock, me fumbling a knotted line after a solo row, her steady hands unkinking it with a grin that lit the dusk. "Rookie mistake," she teased, eyes crinkling like wave foam. "Let me show you the ropes," literally. Over the next weeks, she became fixture, teaching me to read wind shifts, sharing thermoses of clam chowder on her catamaran, the kind that stuck to your ribs like affection. Lena knew the score, heard the diner gossip about that HOA takedown, but didn't pry. "Sounds like you needed the win," she'd say, bumping my shoulder as we hiked the bluffs. "Now what? Build a moat." Her lightness was antidote, but shadows have long reaches. One muggy June afternoon, as thunderheads bruised the horizon, a black SUV crunched up my drive, plates from downstate, tinted windows like suspect shades. I stepped out, shotgun propped casual against the door jamb, unloaded but props matter, heart kicking like a mule. The door swung open, and out stepped not Karen, but a doppelganger. Same blonde bob, same pearl choker, but younger, sharper. Her daughter, Brooke Whitaker, fresh from some Ivy MBA, clipboard in hand like a talisman. "Mr. Hawthorne?" Her voice was honey over gravel, all boardroom polish. Brooke Whitaker, representing my mother's interests. Interests, as if Karen were a deposed monarch scheming from exile. Brooke paced the porch, heels sinking into the new decking I'd laid, surveying like a realtor on commission. "Mom's indisposed. Health issues from the stress, you understand. She's open to settlement. Full restitution of the cabin, plus $200,000 for emotional damages. Sign here, and we all move on." Emotional damages? From a woman who'd orchestrated a man's death for a lakeside empire? I laughed, low and lake deep, handing her a cold seltzer instead. "Tell Mommy, dearest, the only damages are hers. And if she wants emotional, try therapy, not threats." Brooke's facade cracked, just a hair, eyes flashing the family fire. "You think you're Robin Hood? This community's toxic now. Property values tanked 15% post-scandal. You're the villain here, Jack." Villain. The word hung, heavy as humidity, stirring the pot of my doubts. Had I poisoned the well, as Karen claimed? Turned neighbor against neighbor in my quest for justice? Brooke lingered, probing with questions disguised as chit-chat. Dad's drinking problem, Mom's instability, the cabin's structural issues. Subtle digs, Whitaker style, meant to erode. I shut it down firm. Doors that way. And Brooke? Karma's got a long memory. Ask your mom. She left in a squeal of tires, but the encounter lingered like humidity in your bones. That night, storm raging, Lena and I hunker by the fireplace, rain lashing windows like accusations. I spilled it all. Dad's sabotage, Karen's siege, the hollow core of vengeance. Lena listened, chin on knees, firelight gilding her skepticism. "Sounds like you avenged the dead, but forgot the living. What's next, Jack? A shrine to spite?" Her words landed soft, but sure, a tiller correcting course. We made love on the rug, slow and storm-salted, her breaths sinking with thunder, Reminder that life pulsed beyond grudges. Summer swelled, hot and hazy, the lake a mirror for fleeting joys. Brooke's olive branch withered. No more suits, just silence from the Whitaker front. But silence breeds specters. At the July 4th bash, fireworks popping like punctuation over the water, I caught Hargrove in a huddle with the Thompsons, voices low. AG's wrapping up. Defer prosecution if she cooperates. But whispers say Karen's talking plea, naming names. Names. Whose? Mine for stirring the pot? Or her cronies? The board members who'd rubber-stamped her grift? Paranoia prickled. I scanned the crowd, half expecting her to materialize, megaphone in hand, rallying the masses against the interloper. Instead, a package arrived UPS next morn. No return address. Brown paper crinkling like confessions. Inside, a manila envelope thick as guilt. Xerox docs, highlighted in venomous pink. Emails from Karen to her lawyer, dated post-dad's crash. Handle the Hawthorne matter discreetly. Full payout on cabin transfer. Discreetly. Code for bury it deep. But the kicker? A post-it. Her looping script. You want a truth? Choke on it. Choke. The threat coiled cold in my gut. I forwarded to the AG. Anonymous tip, but sleep fractured. Dreams of submerged cars. Her face leering from the depths. Lena noticed the fray, pulling me out on the water at dawn, sails billowing like exhale. You're unraveling, sailor. Karen's not the monster under the bed. She's just a sad bully, lashing from her cage. Sad? Maybe. But bullies bite. That weekend, as we anchored in a cove, her ukulele strumming folk tunes over the lap of waves, I confessed the package, the creeping fear. Lena set the instrument aside, fingers tracing my jaw. Then fight smart, not scared. Build something here. Make the cabin a haven, not a haunt. Haven. The word rooted, tentative as new growth. By August's end, the probe bore fruit. Indictments unsealed, Karen copping to embezzlement, lesser charges on the fraud. No murder rap. The break lines inconclusive, per the DA, but enough to strip her bare. News hit the local feed. Ex-HOA chief faces 5 to 10 in white-collar sting. Her mugshot, gaunt and glare-why, splashed across pixels. Brooke issued a statement. Family stands united. But the condo sold for peanuts, a fire sale to escape the stairs. I toiled on, insulating walls against coming chills, Lena sketching plans for a guest loft, for when we host that writer's retreat you keep joking about. Joking? Maybe not anymore. The betrayal scar faded to silver, a reminder etched but not defining. One crisp eve, as leaves turned traitor gold, a letter arrived, not threat but olive. Hargrove inviting me to the board. Your voice matters, Jack. Help us heal. Heal. From avenger to architect? Tempting. Karen's end? Bitter as quinine. Last dispatch via tabloid tweet. Disgraced pens memoir from county lockup, betrayed by the lake. Memoir. As if her spin could salvage the sinkage. I deleted without reading, poured a pour for Dad, and watched the sun dip, painting the water in hues of hard-won peace. Autumn deepened its claws into Willow Lake, stripping trees to skeletons and sharpening the air with wood smoke and warning. The board invite burned a hole in my pocket, metaphorically, since I'd stuffed it in the junk drawer beside twist ties and takeout menus. Joining? Me, the guy who'd lit the match under Karen's throne? It felt like dancing on a fault line, one wrong step from quake. Lena pushed gentle. Why not? Turn the poison into potion. Potion. She had a poet's way, that one, wrapping wisdom in whimsy. Over pumpkin ale at the roadhouse, elbows sticky with spills, she mapped it out on a napkin. Fix the covenants, fund a community garden, make it yours, not hers. Hers. The ghost word, still potent. Karen's trial loomed like a storm front, pre-trial motions dragging through November's gray slush. Reporters camped the county line, hungry for sound bites, but she stonewalled, lawyered up to the gills, pleading not guilty with a flick of manicure disdain. I avoided the circus, focusing on the cabin. caulking seams, stringing holiday lights early to ward off dark. But avoidance is temporary. The past paddles back like a rogue canoe. It washed up on Thanksgiving Eve, a call from Brooke, number blocked but voice unmissable, syrup slick through the line. Jack, it's complicated. Mom's cracking. The memoir? PR stunt. Real talk. She wants to meet. Off record, no lawyers. Closure for both of you. Closure. The holy grail of grudges dangled like bait. I demurred, mumbling about turkey baste, but curiosity gnawed overnight, keeping pace with the wind's whine. By dawn, fog-shrouded and foolish, I agreed. Neutral ground, the old gazebo by the public beach, noon sharp. The place was a relic, peeling paint, benches warped from wet winters, overlooking the lake like a forgotten sentinel. Brooke waited bundled in Burberry, thermos steaming peace offerings. No Karen, just her proxy, eyes puffy from more than chill. She's scared, Jack. First time in her life without control. Scared. The word humanized, against my will. Karen, the iron-fisted icon, quaking in orange scrubs. Brooke slid a folder across the slats. Therapy notes, redacted. A letter, sealed with trembling tape. Read it, or burn it. But she, regrets. Regrets. I pocketed it, conversation veering to small talk. Brooke startup in Ann Arbor, sustainable builds, my fintech gig, remote now, laptop pinging from the cabin's Wi-Fi. Surface ripples, but undercurrents pulled. Dad, he ever mention us? Before, her voice cracked, orphan ache bleeding through. Once, said you were the fixer, like your mom. Meant it kind. A crumb, but it stuck, softening edges I'd honed sharp. Karen didn't show. Protocol, Brooke claimed, but the letter? I cracked it that night, fire crackling accomplice. Her script, once commanding, now cramped. Jack, you were right. Elias was my anchor till I cut the line for shinier shores. The brakes? Panic, not plan. A loose wire I ignored, hoping fate would free me. Cowardice, not crime. The cabin? Greed's mask. I'm sorry, trite I know, but true in this cell's glare. Keep the lake pure. KW sorry. Trite, yes, but the wire detail? It matched the mechanic's vague recall, turning murder to manslaughter of neglect. Not absolution, but aperture, a crack letting light on her monster, revealing a mess of a woman, ambitious and afraid. I shared with Lena over pie, her fork pausing mid-bite. Does it change anything? Change. The cabin stood same, lake lapped eternal, but inside, a valve eased, pressure hissing out. Nah, I lied, then truth. Maybe everything. We drove to the bluff next morn, scattering ashes of the letter into the wind. Symbolic, sure, but cathartic as hell. Below, Willow Lake stretched, silvered by sun, a canvas wiped if not clean. The board vote came casual, over coffee at Hargrove's. Decaf for him, black tar for me. Unanimous, son. We need your fire, tempered. Tempered. I accepted. First meeting a blur of agendas. Trail maintenance, youth rec fund. My pitches, solar co-op, open mic nights, landed soft, nods all around. Karen's shadow? Fading. Her name invoked only in bylaw footnotes, purged like malware. Winter gripped hard that year, blizzards burying drives, but the cabin held. Insulation tight, chimney drawing true. Lena and I weathered it cozy. Sledding with neighborhood kids, her teaching knots while I manned Coco. Movie marathons at Capra Classics, her head on my chest, plotting futures. Sail south come spring, she'd murmur, fingers tracing maps. South, away from frostbite and old feuds, toward mangroves and maybe marriage. But spring brought thorns. Trial date set, Karen's plea bargain leaked. 2 years probation, restitution, community service. Ironic, her scrubbing the very shores she'd lorded over. Brooke called again, voice edged. She's testifying, full disclosure. Your name might come up. Not as enemy, but witness to her fall. Witness. The roll chafed, pulling me back to the stand, spotlit and sworn. I prepped with the DA's paralegal, a no-nonsense Wisconsinite named Trish. Stick to facts, date stocks. Let her squirm. Court day dawn muggy. May's mercy mocking the mood. The county courthouse squatted like a bunker, fluorescent hum underscoring the farce. I slipped in back row, Lena's hand anchor in mine, as Karen shuffled in, defanged, in ill-fit civvies, no suit to armor her. The judge, a hawk-eyed retiree type, droned preliminaries. Then her turn, voice amplified to echo chamber. I manipulated records, pressured Elias, unethically. The accident? My negligence contributed. I knew the truck was faulty, delayed repairs to force a sale. Contributed. The words slithered, dodging direct hit, but the gallery murmured, neighbors, press, a ripple of reckoning. My testimony? Brief, brutal. The forged will, the inflated liens, the 911 call that cracked her facade. She saw me as threat, not heir, called cops on her own lie. Karen's eyes met mine across the wood. Not glare, but glaze, defeat distilled. Verdict? Guilty on counts 3 through 5. Sentence light, but landmark. Barred from fiduciary roles, 5 years oversight. As bailiff let her out, she paused, mouthing silent. Thank you. Thank you? For the fall, or the truth. Ambiguous as lake fog. Outside, press swarmed, mics thrusting like bayonets, but I demurred, arm around Lena, weaving to the truck. Free, she asked, buckling in. Free. The word tasted like lake air, clean and current-born. Summer cycled back, lake alive with wakes and whoops. The community garden bloomed, zucchini riots, tomato wars. My pet project, tilling soil as therapy. Karen's service? A sign there, weekends in gloves and glare, weeding under Hargrove's rye. First sighting, her bent over beds, hair frizzed, no makeup mask. She straightened, spotting me, froze like deer in beams. Jack. No queen, just quiet. Watermelon. I offered a slice, juice dripping judgment-free. She took it tentative bite. Peace. Progress. I countered, and we worked side by side, silence companionable as compost. Bitter end? Hers softened to rue, mine sweetened by seasons. The cabin, once cage, now cradle. Lena's ring glinting as we toasted sunsets. Vows whispered over waves. Willow Lake held us, betrayals beached like driftwood, stories retold around fires not of fury, but fellowship. By Labor Day, the garden had matured into a patchwork Eden, squash vines tangling like old lovers, sunflowers nodding sagely over the fray. Karen's shifts became ritual. Arrive at 8, gloves on by 8:05, her clip-clop heels swapped for rubber boots caked in clay. We'd exchange nods, minimal words, hand me the hoe. Rain coming, building a bridge of banal over the abyss. Not friendship, mine, too fraught for that, but détente, the kind wars end in, with handshakes over treaties neither fully trusts. Lena dubbed it the redemption rutabaga. Chuckling over harvest halls we jarred into chutneys, her engagement band flashing like lighthouse beam. Wedding plans simmered low, small, lakeside, barefoot vows at dusk, wildflowers in her curls. No Karens invited, she joked, but the quip landed lighter now, sting leached by time. My fintech remote worked wonders. Laptop on the dock, code compiling to loon calls, affording lazy afternoons rigging Lena's catamaran, sails snapping like applause. Yet undercurrents tugged. Probation reports trickled. Karen acing classes at community college. Real estate ethics, ironic twist. Volunteering at the shelter, walking mutts with more patience than she'd ever shown people. Brooke visited sporadic, their reunions tense teas at the diner, glimpsed through windows, heads bent, gestures chopping air then softening. Healing's a hack job, Lena observed, kneading dough for sourdough. Scars show the seams. Seams. Mine itched occasional, when news pings of Whitaker fallout. Firm dissolved, assets auctioned. Her name footnote in biz journals, busts of the bust. October frosted the fringes, nipping at boat slips, urging hibernation. The boards fall fate. Hay rides, cider presses, drew crowds, Karen a peripheral figure, ladling mulled wine with mechanical smile. I cornered her by the bonfire, flames licking logs like gossip tongues. How's the straight and narrow? Casual but probing. She shrugged, steam rising from her mug. Narrow's the word. Classes are humbling. Ethics exam, irony overload. A ghost grin fleeting. And you? Taming the HOA beast. I clinked my cup to hers. Beast purring. Thanks to the purge. Purge. The word hung. Ember's glowing judgment. She sipped, eyes on sparks. I was the beast, Jack. Greed and pearls. Elias. He saw it, tried to pull me back. I drowned him instead. Drowned. Metaphor, but waited. The lake's dark mirror reflecting choices sunk. The letter, I pressed the wire. Why not confess sooner? Her laugh, wry as wind. Pride and fear, of you mostly. The boy who wouldn't break. Boy, echo of her scorn, now salve. We parted amicable, her silhouette shrinking into smoke, mine warmed by fire's fade. November's bare branches clawed skies, Thanksgiving a mosaic. Lena's kin from Door County, Hargrove carving bird with surgeon's precision, toasts to new chapters. Karen demurred invite. Too soon, Brooke relayed, but sent a pie, apple cinnamon crisp, note tucked. Gratitude's a tough crust. Break bread. We did, laughing over lattice, the gesture gilding the grudge to guilt. Winter's white mantle muffled more than sound. Doubts, too, blanketed under snowshoe treks and cocoa rituals. Lena and I snowbound one gale, power flickering, cards by candle. Gin rummy stakes kisses, her competitive glint melting me faster than flakes on tongue. Post-nuptials, she murmured mid-hand, sail the keys? Or keys to the cabin, official deed in both names. Both. The future, plural, a balm on solitary scars. Spring equinox brought green shoots, literal and litigious. Karen's probation review, glowing report from her PO. Model citizen, the email read, see seat to the board, vindication veiled. She cornered me at garden, till, trowel, and fist. Heard about the wedding. Invite stands. Stands. The ask hung, vulnerable as seedling. Lena's vote, why not? Full circle. Full. We assented. Her +1 Brooke, the ceremonious swirl of skirts and vows. In common gale, I choose you. The day dawned diamond. Lake glass smooth, air lilac scented. Guests picnicked on quilts, fiddles sawing jigs, Karen peripheral on a bench, sundressed demure, clapping polite. Post vows as Lena and I cut cake. Lemonberry tart, her fave, she approached, gift bag rustling. Inside, a brass plaque, engraved Hawthorne Haven, sanctuary eternal. For the mantle, she said, voice steady. Elias would have liked. Liked. Past tense, but present peace. Thanks, Karen. No more. No less. Words enough. She nodded, retreating to Brooke's side, their heads together in what looked like laughter. Laughter. From her lips? World warped but righted. Years folded like accordions. Kids came, towhead terrors with Lena's grit and my glower, christened in the lake's lap. The cabin grew. Loft for sleepovers, dock extended for dives. HO and my tenure steady, bylaws breathed easy, gardens galore. Karen? Faded to fixture. Annual pie, garden shifts, even sail lessons from Lena, her novice knots endearing. Bitter end? Time tempers, turning gall to gallberry, tart but tonic. Karen's memoir dropped quiet, self-pub screed, retitled Currents of Change, sails slim but sincere. Last I saw her, summer 32, gray streaking gold. She skipped stone with my boy, form fluid as forgiveness. Good arm, she called, pebble plinking perfect. Good. Arm, heart, both. Willow Lake endures, waves whispering enough. Betrayals echo, faint as frog chorus at dawn. I stand on the porch, Lena's hand in mine, kids' laughter lilting, and no, revenge reclaimed, but grace? That's the real legacy.